The Elder Scrolls 6 is one of the most anticipated games of all time. There's been constant theories and speculations about it online, which is pretty damn impressive, considering all we've seen from the game is a fucking field. But hey, that's just a testament to the passion of these fans. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited, but with this excitement comes some worry. Recent Bethesda titles really haven't been for me, and I'm worried this game I've been waiting for almost 15 years won't live up to my expectations. That's why I decided to make this video for the fine folk over at Bethesda, so if you're not Todd Howard, please click off the video. Are we good? Great. Here are 7 things that the Elder Scrolls 6 needs to have, in no particular order. At number 1, I have better character creation. As of the making of this video, Skyrim is the most recent entry in the series, and what this game did to character creation should be a crime. Gone were character classes and birth signs, and I think these need to make a comeback. Having classes like Knight, Bard, and Archer add so much to role-playing. Can't find a class you want? Create your own. I think introducing traits would be a great move too. Starfield had a ton of great traits, so I see no reason why Elder Scrolls 6 shouldn't have them. They could even take this all a step further by making your choice of race matter more. Maybe some factions only allow membership to certain races, or races are more likely to help their own. There's a million different ways they could take character creation, but at the end of the day, I just want more ways to customize my character to my liking, while also dealing with the consequences of those choices. The next thing the game needs is more RPG elements. Going back to Skyrim, the game had significantly less traditional RPG elements compared to previous games. Now, I'm not expecting Baldur's Gate 3 or anything, but they could do so much more. Let's take skills for example. Ideally, skills would act the way they did in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. You invest a certain number of points into skills like archery or speech every time you level up. This gives you more control of your character. I'd also love to see more skill checks outside of combat. Imagine your character is really good at restoration magic, and you come across someone who's injured. You could do a skill check to see if you can heal them or not. If you pass, great, he'll probably give you a reward of some kind. If you fail though, he dies and you miss out. This could be a fun way to show just how much your character progresses throughout the playthrough that isn't combat. I could give hypotheticals like this for hours, but all I really want is more RPG mechanics. Next up, I have better writing and quest design. If you've ever played a Bethesda game, you know that they really struggle with this sometimes. Now, to their credit, Bethesda have never really been known for having particularly good writing, but they used to make up for it with their quest design. Look at the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion, or the Mages Guild in Morrowind. You don't need to have exceptional writing if the game is fun. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt. Games like Skyrim and Fallout 4 rely too much on their Radiant quest systems. These quests were generic go here, kill this, find this type quests, and while these can be good and mindless fun if done right, they are no replacement for traditional quest lines. We need more variety. Look back at some of the most fun and memorable quests in the whole series. One that immediately comes to mind is the quest A Night to Remember from Skyrim. Now on paper, this quest is really nothing special. You just go around talking to people and getting what they ask of you, followed by a large dungeon at the end of it. Anyone who's ever played it though knows just how fun this quest was, and it's all due to the writing. With just a little bit of effort, simple missions like this can be turned into something that will be remembered many years later. For something like the main questline, less is more. We don't need to be some ancient hero from legend that has come down to whoop some ass. One of my favorite aspects of Oblivion is, you weren't the chosen one. You were just some guy who also came to whoop ass. Okay, Bethesda, the ass whooping can stay. Look, what I'm trying to say is, don't overthink it. Give us some fun quest design and good writing, and I'll be there. Here at number 4, I have a complete overhaul to the companion system. Every time I go back and play the older games in the series, one of the biggest issues that stands out to me is how they handle companions. Skyrim has over 50 companions, but I'd bet that the average player couldn't name more than 10. They're just boring. Most only have a handful of unique lines of dialogue. Followers in these games are for the most part treated as mindless NPCs, only good for killing and eye candy. Carrying dragon bones. With games like Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, and even the Fallout series, we get these really rich and deep companions that have their own personalities and even their own quest lines. Now, of course, it'd be really impractical to have 50 companions who each have their own unique backstories. Please guys, the game is already taking too long to come out. So here's the solution. Give us a dozen or so unique companions, ones that are really fleshed out and feel like real people, and then give us like 40 generic mercenaries for hire. If you want your companions to have a personality, take the specialty ones. If you want them to be cannon fodder, take the generic ones. This really is a perfect solution, but no matter what, something needs to change. Next at number 5, I have an interesting setting. The continent of Tamriel is one of the most interesting fictional settings of all time. My hope is that they stick with the pre-established lore, rather than turning the setting into a generic fantasy world. As much as I loved Oblivion and Skyrim, they seem to lean way more into the generic side. Compare it to a game like Morrowind, which featured the bizarre land of Vardenfall. This setting really stood out compared to other fantasy games of that era, and it still does even today. Bethesda has had a tendency in the past to tone down some of the more out there bits of lore in the series. For example, Cyrodiil and lore was originally covered in these vast, dense jungles. This was retconned before the release of Oblivion to make it much more in line with fantasy media at the time. When you have such a unique setting with decades of lore behind it, why not use it? Now at the time of making this video, we have no idea where 6 is going to take place, but I and many other fans are hoping for Hammerfell. Now they could easily turn this into some boring generic desert, but what if they added some of the crazier lore, like giant sand snakes and scorpions? Look, after Starfield's bland NASA punk aesthetic, I'm really hoping for a visually distinct and unique setting for the next Elder Scrolls game. One of the fan favorite features from Starfield was the ship mechanic. You could buy, customize, and crew your very own spaceship that you would use to travel around the galaxy. I had a lot of fun with this feature, and with a little tweaking, I think it could be perfect for the next Elder Scrolls game. Picture instead of a spaceship, you have a traditional ship. It could be a small, agile schooner that only fits a handful of people, or a huge warship that serves as a great naval weapon. You could customize every little aspect of it, and hire people from all walks of life to run it. Now this mechanic would obviously depend on the setting of the game, as a landlocked map wouldn't afford much sailing opportunity. Let's say the game does take place in Hammerfell though, but look at all this prime real estate for sea travel. Now I'm not advocating for the next game to become a Black Flag spin-off or anything. Ideally this would be a small background mechanic that isn't forced upon the player at all. Instead, it's just another means of transportation. This is definitely the most out there feature I've suggested so far, but I can't help but think how great it would work. At number 7, I want more replayability. What I mean by this is, I don't want to be able to do everything in a single playthrough. Some choices need to exclude other options. I want to be tested on what I think the right outcome of a quest is, and if I choose poorly, let me live with that mistake. This should also apply to factions in the game. Becoming the leader of every single faction as a single character is pretty stupid. Imagine instead if you could only focus on a handful, and at a certain point you had to pick which one you wanted to commit to. Would this frustrate some players? 100%. But it would give them a reason to replay the game, which is what these games are built around. All I'm wanting is for a reason to replay these games and to get new content every time I do. At the end here, I have a handful of features that didn't quite make the full list, but are needed regardless. More voice actors. Nothing is more immersion breaking than hearing the same 5 voices everywhere you go. If you need to, you can even bring back this legend.
You are pissing me off. What next?
The magic system feels like it gets nerfed with every single entry. Magic should start off weak, but the more you invest, the more powerful you get until you feel like a god. Give us more weapon variety and weapon types. Spears, halberds, polearms. I want this to be a chivalry player's wet dream. No multiplayer. I know, Fallout 76 eventually did turn it around, but no. Also, give us a good, somewhat bug-free launch. To its credit, Starfield's launch wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, so let's try to avoid a cyberpunk level launch. There's my list. What features do you want to see in the next Elder Scrolls game? Whatever those are, comment them down below, I really want to know. If you liked the video, liking and subscribing helps the channel out a lot. I think that's all for me. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.